Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Puja Amsari, and today, in this beautiful occasion, I would like to explain to you about assessment in ELT, especially for test and also non-test. Well, before I explain to you about the material, I want you to do this first. This is a quiz, so you just need to choose A, B, C, or D here. Well, I will give you 20 seconds to do this, and you may start now. Okay, time is over. Well, what do you think after doing the quiz? Do you think that it's hard? Some people will think that multiple choice tests can be tricky for them because we can see from this one, the answers are almost same. So if people hear about a test, they will think that a test will be scary for them. Let's take a look at the answer. So the meaning of polygen is C, one of a set of cooperating genes, each producing a small quantitative effect. But the meaning of sinusoid is A, an object that serves a focal point of attention and admiration, a center of interest and attention. Let's discuss about the definition of a test. As you can see, a test is a method of measuring a person's ability, knowledge, or performance in a given domain. So it means it's about an instrument, item, or procedure that requires performance on the part of the test taker. Then, if we want to construct a test, there are some regulations that must be followed by us. Okay, some tests can measure the general ability of the students, but other tests only focus on specific competencies or objectives. Next, it's about assessment and teaching. We can see from the picture there is teaching, there is also assessment and also test. So there is the relationship among them. Some people may think that assessment and testing are quite same, or they think that it's synonyms, but actually it's different. So an assessment is an ongoing process that covers a much wider domain. So here I can say that we can assess the students all the time. Like for a semester, we can assess them in the whole semester. But a test is a particular type of assessment that typically consists of a set of questions administered during a fixed period of time under comparable conditions for all students. So for a test, it can be conducted at the end of the course or in the middle of the course. So for the example, it's like midterm test or final test. Well, I can say also that a test is a subset of assessment. So a test is the part of assessment. Here are the differences between assessment and test. We can see from the first one, any of a variety of procedures used to obtain information about the student's performance. So it only focuses on the student's performance, but the test, an instrument or systematic procedure for measuring a sample of behavior by posing a set of questions in a uniform manner. That's different. Then the second one, the example of assessment is essay. Then performances of authentic texts like laboratory experiments, teacher observations, student self-report, and the last one. Assessment can answer the question how well does the individual perform. So it only focuses on individual only. But for the test, how well does the individual perform either in comparison with others or in comparison with a domain of performance test. So if we talk about assessment, it focuses on one individual, but for the test, it's about for a domain or others. Next, about formal and informal assessment. If you want to conduct an assessment, we have two ways of doing it. So for the first one is informal assessment. It doesn't evaluate the students' performances on some grade or metrics, but they use various forms of evaluation. It will be different from formal assessment because formal assessment only uses multiple data-driven methods. Then all tests are formal assessments, but not all formal assessments are testing. The table tells us about the different activities of informal assessment and formal assessment. For the first, exit surveys, observation or presentation, quizzes, writing samples, and project-based assignments. Quizzes are used to improve class engagement and participation. And the last, unplanned comments and response, or we can say that it's feedback. For, for formal assessment, we have tasks, quizzes, surveys, questionnaires, and also we have two kinds of formal assessment like norm reference set and also criterion reference set. And those are different because for the norm, the teacher measures the student's performance based on the average performance in their class. It's like TOEFL, SAT, and for criterion, the example is only the performance of the student individually. When we do assessment, we need to have formative and summative assessment because those are the function of assessment itself. Then formative assessment, like this. When a teacher needs to know the strength and also the weaknesses of the students because it can evaluate the student process when they perform their skill and competence. When they come forward, so the students and also the teachers need to do the different job, like they need to present the material and the teacher needs to evaluate it and give feedback to them. But for the summative assessment is used to measure or summarize what the student have already comprehended. Then the summative assessments can be found at the end of the class. It's like final examination. Yeah, final examination is a part of summative assessment. Here are the differences between formative assessment and summative assessment. From the first part, it's done from the time to time during the instruction of the course. It means it will be done in the whole time or in the whole semester. But for summative assessment, it's done at the end of the course or lesson or program. As I said before, when we have 6 months, it means the summative assessment must be done in the 6th month. Then, it evaluates the process of forming their skill. It summarizes or measures the understanding of the students. That's different because we need to know the process, we need to know the skill of the students, but for the summative, we need to know that the students understand what we have said, what we have explained before. The example, all kinds of informal assessment like exit surveys, observation, and oral presentation. But for summative assessment, it can be quizzes, periodic review tests, and also midterm tests. For the next one, let's talk about norm reference and criterion reference test. They are different because if we talk about norm reference test is when its test taker score is construed in relation to mean, median, and standard deviation, and also percentile rank. But for a criterion reference test is used to give test takers feedback, which is in the form of grades and also on the specific course or lesson objective. Those are the distinctions of two of them. Norm reference test, or we can say NRT, and criterion reference test, we can say CRT. The word norm comes from the word normal, so it means it's normal, and also it compares individual result to other. So for one person to for the other people. Then for the criterion, it only compares the result of the predetermined criteria, not compares others. So the example like SAT, IQ test for CRT, end of the units test or pass-failed semester test exam. For the next one, let's talk about approaches to language testing, but it's only a brief history. Actually, we have many kinds of approaches to language testing, and this part, I just want to give you the explanation about discrete point test and also integrative testing. From the first one, discrete point test mean that the language can be broken down into some parts. The parts are listening, reading, writing, and speaking. We have also some language systems there, like phonology, morphology, lexicon, syntax, and also discourse. But for interrogative testing, refers to a unified set of interacting abilities that cannot be tested separately. Because the name of integrated, so from the first scale to another scale, they have the relation. So it means they cannot be tested separately. The next approaches in language testings are communicative language testing and also performance-based assessment. Then a communicative language testing presents challenges to the teacher or the test constructor to figure out all kinds of real-world tasks. So if I am a teacher, I will give my students to find out an activity or a situation that is outside the class. So it means when they come to the class, they need to present it and tell to the members, tell to other students about it. So it's only the reflections of the students' experience. But for performance-based assessment, it involves oral production, written production, open-ended responses, integrated group performance, and other interactive tasks. The characteristic of this approach is about interactive tasks. After talking about the approaches to language testing, here are some current issues in classroom testing. The design of communicative performance-based assessment rubrics continues to challenge both assessment experts and also the teachers. Then for the first current issue is new views on intelligence. We know that intelligence is really important for the people. Then the word intelligence means something that is related to ability to perform linguistic and logical mathematical problem solving. Then it will make some experts, especially Gardner, extended the traditional issues of intelligence and accepted the traditional conceptualizations of linguistic and logical mathematical intelligence on which standardized IQ tests. Then nowadays we can see that many people will check their IQ and they will know their IQ. So it's about something that we need to know because it will be important for us to develop our skill in school or other places. And for the next one is about traditional and alternative assessment. Yeah, this part or this title, there are two approaches adopted from Armstrong and also Bailey, and those approaches are available in this table. Then for the right side is about alternative assessment, the left side is about traditional assessment. We can look at the part one by one. One-shot standardized exam, timed, multiple choice format, the contextualization test items, score surveys for feedback, norm reference score, focus on right answer, summative oriented to product, not interactive performance, and the last foster extrinsic motivation. And for the alternative assessment, it's continuous long-term assessment. Continuous long-term assessment means start from for the first one we meet till the end of the meeting. It's long-term assessment. On time, free response format. It means when we want to give the response to the teacher or for the students, it's free. Contextualized communicative tags, individualized feedback and washback, criterion reference scores, open-ended creative answers, formative oriented to process, interactive performance, and foster intrinsic motivation. Those are different. So traditional assessment and alternative assessment, we can say that traditional assessment is test, and alternative assessment is kind of non-test. As I said before, that traditional assessment is a test, we can see from the explanation, is a conventional method of assessment that has been applied since a long time ago. Actually, we have applied this, many people had applied this for a long time ago. For the alternative assessment, or we can say authentic assessment, is a more practical and experimental approach of evaluation. The student needs to get involved in various tasks that need their analytical, reasoning, logical thinking capabilities. In activity, they need to get involved together, and they need to give their response, their thoughts, and also their analytical about something. Based on the table, based on the table above, we can say it's continuously long-term assessment and oriented to the process. It's called a non-test. Look at the table. The characteristic of tests, measuring using instrument, measuring using scores, can be compared. So it means we can compare the score for one person to other person, then multiple choices, true, false, and matching. That's the example. But for non-test, measuring in learning process and progress. If we focus on one person, we need to know, start from the first one, he or she studies about a language till the end of the process. So we will know the development of their skill. Not measuring the scores cannot be compared, because we cannot compare the skills. We cannot compare the growth from one person to other person. Questionnaires, observation, and interview. We can see that one student to other students will have the different pace of studying. So it kind of non-test. The next one is about computer-based testing. Nowadays, because we face many kind of viruses in this world, it will make us not to be able to go to some places to take a test, or we cannot go to some places to take a course. So computer-based testing is the solution of this problem. Some computer-based tests, or we can say computer-assisted or web-based tests, are small-scale homegrown tests available on website. If we take TOEFL test, actually we can choose between IBT or paper-based tests. And this, almost all computer-based tests items have fixed close-ended response, but TOEFL, if we take paper-based, it can be calculated from the computer, but for this one, but tests like TOEFL over a written essay section, it needs a person to check it. So yeah, still a person to check it. There is a computer adaptive test, or we can say it's CAT, a specific type of computer-based test that has been available for many years. Then let's take a look at the advantages and disadvantages. If we do computer-based testing, whether it's using CAT or not, we have some differences, some advantages and also disadvantages. For the first one, let's talk about advantages. The classroom-based testing, self-directed testing on various aspects of a language, practice for upcoming high-stakes standardized tests, large-scale standardized tests that can be administered easily at many different stations. So if we want to do computer-based testing, we can do it everywhere. We don't need to like this. If the company is in America, we don't need to go to America to do that test. We just need to stay in our house or in our workplace, then we can do the test. But for the disadvantages, lack of security and the possibility of cheating. We can cheat if we do computer-based testing like this. Occasional homegrown quizzes, the multiple choice format preferred for most computer-based tests, open-ended responses, and the human interactive elements. For the last one, In addition, here are some websites provide further information and example of computer-based tests. So if you wanna test your skill or if you wanna know how your skill is, you can you can go to this website like Educational Testing Service, or it's familiar as ETS. Yeah, ETS is really famous for us. Test of English as a foreign language, or TOEFL. Test of English for International Communication, or we can say TOEIC. International English Language Testing System, or we can say it's IELTS. And the last one, DIVS ESL, computerized quizzes, or we can go to eslkfe.com. Alright, I have given you some explanations about assessment in ELT, or test and also non-test. So here is the quiz that you need to do. I have several parts here, several activities, and you just need to put them into this. It can be formative informal, formative formal, summative informal, or summative formal. Yeah, you can do this. You can do this by yourself, and later we can discuss it together. The last one, thank you so much for watching my video. If you have any questions, just discuss it together, and later we can know that this kind of assessment is really important for us as a teacher in school or other places. Thank you and see you.